Most people think that recovery comes from big breakthroughs, large wins. But after a concussion, the brain heals from something much quieter. Hi, and welcome to the PCS Resilience Collective. My name is David Brimacombe, and after 7 concussions over 20 years, I learned the power that small wins today equals large victories tomorrow. Let's begin. Post-concussion recovery often fails, not because people don't care, not because people are ill-informed, but because they try too hard. Now, understand that the tolerance for new protocols, systems, ideas, movement, all those things that you think are going to heal you and could and will heal you in small doses are done early on in large amounts, in amounts that you could tolerate prior to your concussion. But after a concussion, your body doesn't have that same resilience. So it looks like this. You make too many changes. You make too big a changes. Your body reacts. Danger. What's going on? Why are we changing our routines? And you become more symptomatic. You become more tired. You become more lethargic. And therefore, you become more cynical of your path and your recovery. This is a sick cycle that plays on itself to the point where a lot of people just give up and fail. I was at that same point. I tried everything, but I tried everything to the nth degree. If it said movement was going to help with my blood circulation and reduce my symptom load, I would try to go for a jog or walk around the block when I could hardly get up and down the stairs. Now, that had a terrible impact on my symptoms and therefore my psyche. What I had to understand was that a sensitive nervous system, a nervous system that was constantly looking for threats in the environment, did not respond to force. It responds to safety, to predictability, to small sequential changes in my routine. And so that's where I started. I started to make smaller changes and I saw smaller wins. With the smaller wins became momentum, which increased my belief. This wasn't easy, but it was the start of my recovery. I recently came across a Japanese word, Kaizen. It is the idea of small continual improvements create long-lasting changes. Now, this typifies everything I believe about PCS recovery. The things that you do today might seem inconsequential. Okay, having a little bit more water, sleeping on a consistent cycle, eating foods that are non-inflammatory. These aren't huge changes, okay? But when you compound them, when you add them, when you layer them, when you do them day after day, and you create safety in the system, when you create an understanding in the body that I can actually improve, it starts to scale. It starts to increase your ability and understanding that you can heal your system. You are a change agent in your recovery. The reason why Kaizen works is because your brain doesn't need proof that these systems are going to work. That everything you're going to do, you're going to, again, talk about your diet, you're going to do nervous system regulation, you're going to do meditation. Your brain doesn't need proof of that. What your brain needs proof of in this moment, okay, is that what you're going to do, whatever it is, it's going to be safe. It's going to be supported. And it's not going to be a dangerous situation that's going to cause all those nervous system alarm bells to go off and your symptoms to flare. Where is Kaizen used? Now, Kaizen is used in all forms and walks of life. Now, you might have heard me talk about the book Atomic Habits on this channel before. So there's a lot of similarities there. Okay? The concept is this, that if we continually do what we know we need to do, and we do it in small increments, you're going to see lasting changes. You're going to see lasting changes not only in your physical being, but also your social and emotional. You're going to have more confidence and more competence. With that, you're building a roadmap. You're building a future self. You're walking in the direction where you need to go. You're not running. You're not sprinting. You're walking. At this stage of your recovery, it is all about momentum. Momentum comes from layering these small steps. You don't have the capacity to sprint to the next step, to run. You need to start by crawling. Maybe even shuffling your feet. maybe then walking and lightly jogging. That is your steps. That is the pace that you need to work at. And you need to do it for what works for you. One of the reasons why people fail to implement the concepts of Kaizen, so small changes, is that for many of you, and for myself included, I didn't feel great. I felt like I needed to feel well to start. I needed to be symptom-free one day. I needed to not have that brain fog, that cognitive delay, and then I would start. That's not how this works, okay? I've always said that your movement has to precede your mood changes. So if I know that I need to do something, but I'm gonna wait to feel good to do it, you're not gonna do it. Because in order to change the way you feel, the way you perceive yourself, you need to do it. And again, the hardest thing to do when you feel like you cannot get out of bed, you feel like everything you do is a struggle. And I get you, I got you, okay? It's a terrible feeling. But understand that that terrible feeling can be minimized, can be diminished by taking a small step. And the small step doesn't have to be drastic, okay? Think of who you're doing this for. So again, if I struggle to get out of bed and move without feeling dizzy, nauseous, okay, maybe I'm gonna get up, take a few small steps, and then sit down. I'm gonna rehearse in my mind why I'm doing this. Why am I putting myself through this? I could simply just lie down, close my eyes, and I wouldn't be symptomatic. But guess what? You can't live the rest of your life like that, unfortunately. You have to push yourself. You have to push the envelope. You have to push your tolerance so that you can improve. Improvement doesn't come by blasting your system, going from 0 to 100. It comes from slowly starting the engine. Think of the tortoise and the hare. You have to act like the tortoise. We don't have the capacity to run the race like the hare. We are the tortoise. We're gonna move slowly, but we're gonna be consistent. When the hare is so tired it needs to rest, we have the energy, the capacity. We're building our tolerance. We're moving at that pace where we can actually improve from day to day and from week to week. So here's what I want you to do to adopt this principle. I want you to shrink one habit that you've been meaning to start, or maybe you have started, but it just hasn't stuck yet, okay? And I want you to shrink it to the point where it is so small. It's like a minuscule step that it seems like it's gonna be insignificant. So for example, I wanna add movement to my recovery routine. I eventually wanna be able to walk around the block and not feel my symptoms flare, okay? That's your end goal. You're not gonna start with that. Our first step, maybe this week, instead of going for the walk around the block or the walk to the mailbox, I'm simply gonna put on those shoes that I'm gonna walk with. I'm gonna get myself ready, both physically and mentally, like I'm gonna go for a walk, but I'm just gonna step outside. I'll stand on my front porch, maybe even walk to the corner and back. But all I'm doing is I'm taking a very small step. Next week, maybe I get up, put my shoes on, put my stuff on, I go outside and I walk 3 houses down and back. And again, it seems so small. Why would 3 houses? Like, are you kidding me? That's not gonna make any changes. But guess what you're doing? The most important thing that you need to understand is that you are increasing the safety in your body. It is not so much the physical aspect of your recovery that is gonna change everything. Your mind perceives everything as danger, everything around you. You're gonna go outside, you're gonna go for a walk. Well, that association that you've made in your brain is that walking equals exercise, which equals increase in blood flow, which equals symptoms flaring. And that association is subconscious. You're not actually thinking about that. But we can change that. We can rewire your mind. And to do so, we need to slowly make the changes. So we're gonna go outside, kind of making that association of going outside and going for a walk, but we're just gonna be there. We're gonna be present in nature. And guess what? We're slowly changing that association. Walking doesn't have to be dangerous. There can be safety involved, okay? So the biggest thing I want you to do after you come in is you're going to remind yourself of the safety of this activity. Do some down regulation. Remind yourself with some mantras. I am safe, I'm supported. Look at me, congratulate yourself, celebrate. I did it, I went outside. I am not symptomatic. But again, anything positive that you're going to associate with what used to be a negative is going to shorten the time it takes to change that association in your mind, to rewire that pattern. Again, if this is something that you've been doing for weeks, for months, for years, it's going to take a little bit longer. But creating this new connection of excitement and of a higher tolerance is going to change everything. One of the most impactful things that this is going to do for you, it's a small shift in your identity of who you are as a person. You are no longer the person that just sits back and lets your body heal on its own. If it does, if it doesn't. You are now actively involved. You are an active participant in your recovery. You are going out and taking the steps. However long it takes, it doesn't matter. You're changing who you are in your PCS recovery journey. And that is huge. You don't understand how big of a mind shift, identity shift that does. Because you've proven to yourself that you can do something. And you can do something that's not going to necessarily flare your symptoms. Now, what if it does flare your symptoms, even standing outside? That's okay. Do your breath work. Remind yourself that you're safe and supported. Try again tomorrow. It might take time. If you've been stuck in this phase where you've made that connection of when I go outside, I feel symptomatic. When I do any kind of movement, my symptoms flare. It's going to take time. But remind yourself that this is possible. The concept and the belief that comes that this is possible and that I can do little things to make big changes is going to have a huge impact, okay? What I want you to do is in the comments below, I want you to mention one thing you're going to change, one small thing that you're going to add to alter in your PCS recovery. We can keep each other accountable. We can support each other. Just put it down below. I love to hear from you what you're trying to do to change your recovery pattern. And just remember, the brain is malleable. You can change it. You can make that association change, but you need to start small so you can keep that safety in your body. Thank you for listening. Have yourself a great day.